I think most of the time people judge the quality of a citizenship by how many countries you can travel to using that country's passport. So people will say a US passport is a great passport to have because you're welcome in so many countries in the world. And yet what we've seen with the recent panic in the world thanks to coronavirus, and what I've been saying for years, is that you shouldn't judge a citizenship. You shouldn't judge a second passport merely based on visa-free travel. I'm going to explain what I mean and why it matters to you in this video. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you'd like to learn how Nomad Capitalist helps successful entrepreneurs and investors get second passports, legally go offshore, go where they're treated best, you can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. Now, when we first published the Nomad Passport Index in 2017, I said that the methodology of ranking countries' passports based solely on their visa-free travel privileges was flawed. And so what we did is we said, okay, let's take that into account, because obviously global mobility is important these days. It's important for business, it's important for travel and opportunities and just enjoying life. But if you're a citizen of a country that imposes a lot of restrictions on you, they subject you to regulations, or they limit your movements, or they tax you no matter where you live in the world, as the United States does, or they subject you to forced military service, there's a draft, or any number of other things. Those things should factor in. And what we came out with was the United States was about the 35th best passport in the world. Not terrible out of 200, but when I talk to folks from the United States, they often undervalue why they need a second passport. And I think that the recent panic has really, hopefully shown people why that's not as important as you may think. Now, while people in the citizenship industry, citizenship by investment, will say, hey, get this Dominica passport, you can visit 132 visa-free countries, that will be their main pitch. I don't think that's so important, because what we're seeing now is any one country, if you have only one passport, that country can restrict your movements. They can put you on complete and total lockdown. They can shut down the border. They can tell you where you can and cannot travel. And that's always been the case, but it's been the stuff of conspiracy theories to say that, a country wouldn't let you leave. Ron Paul in the United States presidential election a number of years ago said, I'm not really in favor of a border wall because, sometimes walls keep people in too. And people said, well, that's kind of ridiculous. But I think what we've seen recently is governments can wield extreme levels of power. And so for me, having a second passport has always been about having more options. Yes, having a passport portfolio expands your visa-free travel privileges. And if you're a Westerner and you want to do business in Russia or China, then having a passport that makes it easier to get in there and you're not always sitting in the visa office, that's a good thing to have. Or, if you're someone with not such a great passport and you want to do business in Europe, that can help as well. But it goes beyond just where you can travel. And it means having options in terms of having places to go. So what we've seen during the coronavirus panic is more and more countries have closed their border. And what they've said is citizens can come in. I think one country tried to briefly say they wouldn't even let their own citizens in, and that didn't work. But a lot of times they've also said permanent residents can come in. Now, it doesn't mean if you've got a long-term visa, some of these little, business visa kind of things, those didn't work. But if you've got a permanent residence, they often let you in. People who have a real connection to the country. And so, and for me, having citizenships when possible, having potentially another permanent residence when possible, that complement places where you like to spend time, you feel safe, you're doing business, having those all around the world is a good idea. And it's not just a matter of, collecting passports or collecting permanent residences. It's a matter of giving yourself the flexibility that you're welcome in different places. And so if you are an American or a Canadian or an Australian or a Brit or anyone else who's got a good passport, you've been saying all these years, well, I'm welcome everywhere. I just go and I show them and, hey, Canadian passport, they let me in pretty much anywhere I go. I've heard that dozens of times from folks. But it doesn't work as well anymore, because in times of chaos, you're not as welcome. If we look at the standard of visa-free travel, countries in Europe now are shutting their borders to each other. right? So having the much vaunted European Union citizenship that people pay a premium for in order to be able to move freely throughout Europe, or going and getting a golden visa to be able to move freely throughout Europe, doesn't always work. And I'm not saying those strategies in the long term won't work. I'm not saying that if you want to be an EU citizen, that there's a problem with that. But what I'm saying is this idea of solely judging residence and citizenship based on where it allows you to travel outside of that country is flawed, because in times of chaos, which to me is what you're getting options for. I mean, it's nice to, again, to be able to travel, but you also want to take in mind, what happens if something bad happens? What are my options going to be then? And we've had a 10-year bull run. We've had a 10-year great economy without a lot of problems in the world. And we've kind of gotten adjusted to that mindset where nothing can go wrong. You're being ridiculous. Now you're seeing something that can go wrong. And so in my mind, if you have citizenships in different places, you can choose where you want to ride a difficult situation out. When I was on a trip in Myanmar, I heard, Malaysia's going to lock the borders down. So I came back quickly. Now, if you're a citizen of a country, if you've got a permanent residence, you're going to get in. But imagine if you didn't and you got stuck somewhere. Or imagine, if you're living in a country where the situation is bad and you want to go somewhere else. Or imagine even if your passport has been stereotyped as having a problem, like Chinese passports were, because, we don't want to let any Chinese citizens in. They might have the coronavirus. Even if that Chinese citizen was living in a country with 0 coronavirus cases, countries just said no Chinese. Or if you can come, you got to go in quarantine for 2 weeks in the airport kind of thing. So you didn't have options. Being able to go and being welcomed under any circumstances, not just when things are going wonderfully, but being welcomed under any circumstances where they have to let you in, where they want to let you in, that's important. It's a great way to ride out the panic, and again, but it's also a good way where if things get tough in one place, you can go to another. We never know when things will get worse in the country that we're living in. And so if that one country is your only option and things go down rapidly, the way stock markets go down rapidly, the way bankruptcy happens rapidly. I mean, sometimes things happen rapidly and you may not have time. You think, when things get really bad, I'll slowly pack my stuff and I'll figure out where I'm going to go. No. Have it ready. Have a home somewhere else. Have a residence, have an immigration status where they're going to let you in and you can go there and you're set up. Personally, I think investing in real estate is a great way to get some of these residences and citizenships. You can then use that real estate if you want as a place to go and live. I have homes around the world. I have citizenships around the world. And so even in times of chaos, I can travel and I can be welcomed to these countries. To me, that is just as important as, whether, I now have visa-free travel to Namibia. That was one of the things I was looking at with one of my passports. Woohoo! Now I can go to Namibia without a visa. I think that so many people geek out on that. And the people who are selling you the passports, they geek out on where you can travel. Yes, that's important. Yes, if you have an Iranian passport, having a better one would be helpful. Yes, having multiple citizenships to facilitate all the good stuff like investments and freedom of movement, that's good. But passports and residence permits should also facilitate your having safe havens, your having options, you and your family being safe in times of chaos. That to me is something that most people have not considered, and I think if you consider it going forward, you'll be able to greatly prepare and protect yourself. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.